speakers. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Jack Farnell-Bain. I work on the policy team at ERSA. My role at ERSA is actually funded by Youth Futures Foundation, who we've got speaking today. And sort of my role is to bring a real focus on youth policy and youth employment policy to the ERSA policy team. And as part of that, we're doing this event. I'm shortly going to hand over to Eleanor from the Youth Futures Foundation, who's going to present some recent research that they've done on youth self-employment and entrepreneurship. And then we're going to hear from one of our great ERSA members, Merseyside Community Training, who in their youth hub run a young entrepreneur academy. And we're also going to hear from a graduate of this academy, Sebastian. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Eleanor from Youth Futures, who's going to tell us a little bit about her research.
Thank you so much, Jack. I'm really glad to hear that we're funding your role. That's really exciting. And welcome to everyone else. How's everyone coping in this heat? You all okay? I hope you've got fans on you. Great. Okay, well, I'm not going to take up too much time because I saw who else was on the speaker lineup, and I think there's some really exciting guests speaking a bit later from an enterprise college. So please let me just whiz through the boring part, the evidence. So my name's Eleanor Marcy. I'm the strategy manager at Youth Futures Foundation. If you can just scoot across with the slides, that would be great. Perfect. Are we missing the titles? I'm not sure what's happened to those. I can share my version if it's not working. Anyhow, Youth Futures Foundation, for those of you who haven't heard of us, we are the What Works Centre for Youth Employment. So a What Works Centre is a sort of a network of organisations. To name another one, the Centre for Ageing Better is one, and we all have a different sort of cause. And our aim is to improve the way that government and other public sector organisations are sort of using evidence in decision making, essentially. So putting it really simply, the What Works network really helps to get more money from the government directed to services that really work. The clues in the name, the What Works Centre, we really want more of the things that really are helping and having impact in our communities. So our overarching mission is that we want employment gaps to be reduced so that young people facing the greatest challenges can find and keep good quality jobs. So in our case, we're really focused on marginalised young people. And that can mean a number of different things. We've done a lot of research into ethnic disparities and how different young people find getting into employment. What are the disparities there? Other groups such as care leavers, those with additional needs, people with experience of the criminal justice system, the list goes on. A fun fact for you is that in some of our research, we worked out that if the UK was to match the levels of those young people not in education, employment or training with Germany, so not getting rid of them completely, just reducing the levels, matching Germany's, a £39 billion would be injected back into our economy, which is really a business case enough. Thank you. I'll move to the next slide. So a couple of stats just to really quickly whiz through, not that you won't know these already, but actually last year there was a 13% increase in NEET young people. So NEET meaning not in education, employment or training, which is a really big jump. So care leavers in particular are 4 times more likely to be NEET, really concerning. In the year up to June 2022, unemployment rates were highest for Black young people. So we're starting to see these racial and ethnic disparities. So 21% compared to just 9% for their white peers. And we know that the largest group, so the biggest proportion of NEET young people is those from Pakistani or Bangladeshi backgrounds. So the problem of youth unemployment persists, unfortunately. So that's why we were founded. We were founded in 2019 with a big pot of money from dormant assets funding from the government. And if you can just move to the next slide, that would be really helpful. Thank you. We're slightly different in that we're not actually a delivery organisation. So Youth Futures Foundation, we're not working directly with young people giving employability skills. But we sort of drive more sort of systemic change, so changes in the way that our system works to be able to enable people who are working with young people to do things differently, better, more money, that kind of things. So the way that we do that, three sort of pillars, strategic pillars that we have. One is giving grants. So we give this pot of money to those organisations who are providing that employment support. But what we do with that is we use those grants to give us more knowledge about what is working. So the people that we fund, whether that's a youth organisation in Hull, just to name one that comes off the top of my head, they then trickle back what is working, what is actually helping their young people to get into work and stay in work. And with that evidence, we can then scale it up and help a youth organisation in Bristol and Cornwall and Birmingham to do more of what's working. So all of that is generating evidence, which is the second thing that we really do. As a What Works Centre, we conduct lots of research and evidence and evaluations, and that better informs our understanding of what works. And then finally, we work with policymakers in government, we work with employers, we work with intermediaries like ERSA, who are working with other networks to drive changes in behaviours, changes in policy, changes in practice, just to make things forward moving, forward thinking. So those are the main strands of what we do. And what underpins all of that for us, we've got a really, really heavy focus on youth participation. So young people are embedded really, really at the heart of all parts, everything that goes on in our organisation. So we've got an amazing group of ambassadors called the Future Voices Group, 20 young people aged 16 to 24 who all have experiences of facing barriers when gaining or maintaining employment, and various other groups of young people that we work with. Thanks, Jack. If you can just push me on. Right, so missing a title, but the reason that we've come along, well, that I've come along today, is because we did a bit of research into self-employment and young people this year. And it's a really exciting piece. You can read it in full on our website, and I will put that link in the chat for you. So towards the second half of last year, we partnered with two organisations, one called the Social Innovation Partnership, or TSIP for short. They're fantastic. If you're looking to do any research, do get in contact with them. And another organisation called Word on the Curb. So we did a discovery research piece. And what that means is that we wanted to just scratch the surface and find out, really discover what exactly young people are saying about self-employment. So really, really what we wanted to understand is why young people from marginalised backgrounds in particular are driven to pursue self-employment. So obviously you can imagine that in a society, you know, that they don't see themselves fitting into, certain young people may feel disenfranchised with following the traditional routes of employment. So to unearth that, we asked young people to tell us more about their understanding of self-employment, whether they would consider it themselves, what support they know is available or not available, and what makes self-employment good quality. Like, what's the difference between self-employment that feels like a real uphill struggle and self-employment that feels like, do you know what, I could do this as my main source of income. So again, the really exciting part of this research was that it was absolutely with young people at the heart. So we centered participatory methods. And by that, I mean participatory is when the people who we're looking at, the people who we're researching are at the helm, are really in the driving seat of conducting the research. So we paid young people to co-design what they wanted the research to look like, what the questions were, and then peer researchers actually did the interviews and did the surveying. And honestly, I can say that without that sort of method of having young people really in the driving seat, we wouldn't have got the depth of understanding. It's only because it was young people talking to other young people that we really were able to get into the depth of what's going on. And we just wouldn't have been able to do that without them. So a huge thank you to everyone who took part. So research was conducted, report was published beginning of this year, and we did a roundtable as well. Let's move on to the findings. What did the research actually tell us? Lots. And you'll have to read more about it. I'm just going to whiz through a couple of the key findings if you'll let me. So the first probably won't be a surprise to you because I feel like you're all kind of in this space, but the evidence that already exists out there, so the data sets about who's self-employed, how many people in the UK, what are they doing, what does self-employment actually mean, it's really limited. It's really hard to get an understanding of the scale of who's doing it, the scope of what kind of jobs that is, and what the variety consists of. Statistics in some places say that young people who are self-employed is at around 0.5%. Others say much higher. It's really hard. It's really hard to find exactly what's going on. And we think that's because sometimes data doesn't tell the whole story. So sometimes young people might be doing self-employment as like a secondary job. Maybe they're a student and they're just doing like a bit of Uber or a bit of Deliveroo and not really classing that as being self-employed. It might be that they're doing paid work that's not on record, sort of cash in hand. It's still work. It's just that it's not, we don't have that data. So the second finding was that young people really, really strongly told us that self-employment as an option is about freedom and ownership and the ability to put their values into their work and to really practice that. Young people told us that young people that were self-employed told us that they felt in charge and proud of the values and the culture of their work. And some people talked about not living in the shadows of a company that wasn't necessarily founded on their own values and ideas. And that is a really important theme that we've really, really like picked up on, that now more than ever, young people are really looking to their work to be like an exemplar of, you know, how they feel about the world, and really like a product of their values, which is just, it's just super, super interesting. Next finding was that young people found it really difficult to access high quality support for self-employment. Again, not really a surprise. I'd love to hear from you all after about whether that's a surprise to you. If you can just move to the next slide, because on this, we found there was a real confusion about what self-employment actually is. Because we've got lots of words that are flying around: self-employed, freelancer, entrepreneurship, enterprise. And often what we're finding is that the programs that do support young people really well, such as, you know, the Prince's Trust and other programs, they're often about like business and entrepreneurship. A young person has an idea that could just fly, you know, an app, technology, you know, something like that. And what that's not catering for is the young people who want to be a hairdresser in their spare time, or are a cleaner and they do sort of 0 hours and they're self-employed. So this here, we're calling it hero entrepreneurship, which I think was a young person who named it that. But it's putting pressure on this 0 to millionaire sort of idea of self-employment. Young people reported that there's still quite a lot of stigma around hustle culture. And by hustle culture, I mean, you know, lots of different jobs and picking up bits of work where you can and just hustling to make ends meet. But this hero entrepreneurship, it reinforces that you only succeed by your own efforts in a competitive market. And it doesn't necessarily look at all the barriers that really are in place for some young people that really stop them from that big success story. Let's move on. So other findings, just really quickly. The support for young self-employed people is under-evaluated. So I said before that it's hard to find in the first place, but when you do find it, we don't really know whether it works or not. So if you can find a program of support for young people wanting to get into self-employment, fantastic. But no one's really taken the time to study what are the outcomes, what's that young person doing in 5 years, 10 years, to know that it really does work and it really does change the outcomes for young people, specifically marginalised young people. So, of course, young people told us about the support that they would love to see when sort of moving into a self-employed world. Practical support, financial literacy was a huge, loud, it was just a cry out for that support. Things like tax came up again and again. It's such like a multi-layered skill set. Not only do you have to be good at your actual job, but you also need to know how to do tax, HMRC, admin, customer service, all of these things that young people really would like some support with. And then also things like mentoring and networking came up really high up, especially for young people who felt that they had lower social capital, which for those of you who don't know, it's sort of like who you know gets you far. And of course, because some young people have lower social capital to begin with, because society being unequal, that would be a really valuable role that they would like in their lives. Final finding for you today, but really interesting one, is that when we spoke about targeted support, and by that I mean a program specifically for young Black men, for example, those who took part in the interviews and the surveys felt really sort of unsure about targeted support, and they felt like it needed to be handled really carefully. The reason for that being was that there was a bit of a skepticism about targeted support contradicting with that sort of self-starter attitude that young people going into self-employment sort of feel that they need to portray. And feeling like this targeted support almost like decreases their ability to have independence and to say that they have got everything on their own. You know, those lines that we hear people say, I built all of this on my own back. So there was a real sort of feeling of uncertainty about that. The other part of targeted support that sort of came up was that young people felt like targeted support for a young person facing marginalization really does help to support that young person on an individual basis. But what it doesn't do is address the wider systemic barriers at play. So that's discrimination, inequity of education, a lack of resources for some communities, the lack of networks that I spoke about. It doesn't really get to the point of why some groups are finding self-employment harder than others. So it's sort of like a self-perpetuating cycle that we're not getting out of. So all really interesting, really interesting. Please do have a read of the report. I'll just scoot across and tell you what the sort of key recommendations were, because if anyone wants to have a chat, we can't read this one very well, but it was a quote, a nice quote that I can send you, and it really just drills down on that feeling of young people wanting their work to match their values and not to live under anyone else's sort of shadow. I'll send you the slides and you can have a little read. But on the recommendations, although we've done this research, we really want to invite other players in this space to sort of really think, you know, is that a role for me? Is that something that we could help with? And if you want to have a chat about it, would love to do that. So key findings involved or included more research, more understanding, because I think what this research showed us is that there are so many gaps in our understanding of what self-employment is and what works. So that's something that Youth Futures absolutely can do. We are already looking into furthering our research and evidence in this. If you want to get involved, do reach out. So further participatory research, specifically in certain regions and sectors, demographies. This was really, as I said, scratching the surface. And what we found due to the partnerships, a lot of the young people that were surveyed and sort of interviewed were quite London centric. And we really, really want to look at how different places are embracing self-employment or finding different unique challenges. It's really important. And that leads on to sort of specific occupational categories. So I spoke about those Deliveroo and Uber jobs. I think platform-based, and that's what we're calling it, platform-based working, is a really big thing at the moment, and provides lots of opportunity, lots of challenges, lots of hurdles that we'd really love to get to grips with and really understand from a young person's perspective. So if any of you are exploring that, get in contact or have a think about it. And then finally, the final two recommendations are really supporting and empowering young people to co-design and build resources, so that those who have succeeded and had really good outcomes can share that and share what went well, what would help with other young people. And that could be resources, videos, case studies, or it could even be programs which would then need some funding from some people in the room, presumably. So let's talk. I've put my contact details at the end of the slide deck that I think, Jack, you'll kindly send over. But do stay in touch with us on self-employment or any of the other bits that we're working on. We'd love to hear from you. So just a reminder, my name's Eleanor Marcy. I'm the strategy manager, so working a lot with employers in our work there. Great, I'll leave it there. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks so much, Eleanor. That was a really, really great presentation. I think it's really important to have youth-led research in this space, and that's definitely something that we really appreciate about the Youth Futures Foundation. And obviously, I think for the people in this room, especially from a provider perspective, understanding what young people think about self-employment and what kind of support would work for them is really good. And I really encourage everyone to go and read the full report when they get a chance, and obviously speak to the Youth Futures Foundation if you want to get in touch with them. Apologies about the issues with the slides. We will obviously send out an amended copy to everyone who attended today. Also, a couple of things that I didn't mention at the beginning. We're actually going to do questions at the end. So to all of the speakers, once we've heard from MCT, and if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, please feel free to do that, because I think it's great to know who's here and who's in the room and who's participating in this conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to pass on to the team from Merseyside Community Training. I think we're hearing from Kevin first, so I'll let him introduce his team. Thanks again, Eleanor.
Thank you. Afternoon, everybody. I hope you're not as hot and bothered as we are today after running the Youth Employment Hub as well as a programme, but we're still here. That's the main thing. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to make people aware of what MCT is, because we're probably in the employment world one of the best kept secrets that we were keen to change. So MCT was formed almost 3 years ago in October by two budding entrepreneurs who saw a need in the local market of marginalised and disadvantaged young people not receiving the support they require, not focusing just in general support, but focusing in entrepreneurial support, with them being entrepreneurs. So we could flick to the next slide. For those who've never had the pleasure of meeting me, that's who I am in action. I'm not only sat behind a desk all the time. One of the things that we're keen within our employment hub is collaboration. Collaboration is the key to success in all that we do. We're such a small social enterprise based in the Northwest that without the investment from our partners, organisations and members, we wouldn't be as successful as we are, and we would not be able to engage with as many young people as we currently do. If the next slide, please. So as I said, we're a non-for-profit social enterprise that was founded by passionate individuals who want to give back into the community. And at MCT, we're extremely passionate about giving every young person across the Liverpool City region and further, if they're willing to commute, the chance to find their own positive destination. Now, that's our language for NEET becoming EAT. So they either go into education, employment or training, and we define that as a positive destination because to them, it's the first time in a long time they've probably given the opportunity to celebrate something, and that's why we class it as a positive destination. And we want to ignite their passion and forge a career that works for them as opposed to them working for the career or the sector. And one of the things that we're really keen to do with our collaboration is we reach and extend our reach to organisations who share our values. If they don't share our values, we find it difficult to work alongside. And that includes some of our employers. We'll only work with employers who offer a living wage rather than a minimum wage. We don't tend to promote zero-hour contracts. So we kind of keep it youth-focused, youth-friendly, and be a strong advocate for them when they're exploring that scary world we all know as work. Next slide, please. Like everything, brand tends to only be important to the people who belong to that brand, but I'd like to bring our logo to life. And our logo actually has a lot of meaning. So the hands within our brand stands for making communities thrive. The hands are symbolic to embracing, holding, supporting, and setting foundations in the communities where we work. And this is irrespective of any young person's background, beliefs, because what we're passionate about is when a young person comes into MCT, we remove the labels such as care leaver, ex-offender, young person, single parent, broken families, marginalised, disadvantaged, BAME. Every label comes off. And the only label that we kind of put on our young people is member. They become members of MCT, as do our corporate partners, as do our volunteers, and as do the staff. So everybody in our organisation is a member. So we're all on that level foundation, that level footing as we explore. The blue branches that come out is members coming together, and that's our youth employment hub, where young people come in and explore these branches of opportunity, discovery, finding out what pathway works for them. During our time, and we work in partnership with the DWP, we are one of the youth employment hubs in Liverpool City region, we discovered that some young people actually don't have the appetite to work for others. They have the appetite to work for themselves. And that's something that we don't disencourage here at MCT. And those who work with young entrepreneurs are familiar with this expression. I've got this silly idea, or I've had a silly thought, but I don't think it'll go anywhere. But we're pleased, and you'll hear from Cassandra shortly, who'll go more into depth about the Entrepreneurs Academy and the Youth Enterprise Hub. But the stars around our logo is managing creative talent, because in my eyes, these young people who have got the strength, courage and belief to take that leap of faith by becoming an entrepreneur already outshines my faith and my belief in myself at their age. And that's something that we strongly promote here at MCT. Next slide, please. And we do that based on the foundations of our values. And I'm not going to read the values out to you, but I will share the journey that each young person undertakes when they become a member of MCT. So they'll come in on an initial conversation. They'll have a training needs analysis where we'll explore where they are, where they want to be, and how we're going to get there. And we do that with passion. So our foundations become passion. In order for any young person to come engage with us, we're not really, about to sound crude when I say this, we're not really interested in their background. We want to know what their passion is and what their motivators are. And then what we do is we put them on a pathway of self-discovery if need be, before we put them on a pathway of employability or entrepreneurship, and that leading to the positive destination. And what we do with our young people then is once they've achieved their positive destination, we encourage them to reignite their passion, find a new pathway and continue to strive for their next positive destination, thus introducing them to a career and not just securing a job. Next slide, please. So the pathways that we have support within our organisation is we rely heavily on the support from external collaborations, from volunteers to the DWP, like-minded organisations such as, we've got a fantastic partnership with Cisco at the moment, Straight Up Technologies, Virgin Media O2, who actually want to give back. So there's more ways. When we say invest in MCT, there's 3 ways people can invest. Give us your time, be a volunteer, be a mentor, be a coach. Resource. If you've got any dormant resource lying within your organisation that is gathering dust, we could probably repurpose that with a young person who is going into employment and needs that equipment, or setting up their own business, and that type of investment will give them such a huge kickstart. Or if you have the means, kind of invest in capital, and that will help us grow quicker than we currently are and extend our reach further than we currently do. So our memberships are into two avenues. We've got the Youth Employment Hub, which we work in partnership with EWP and the local communities. And we also have the Youth Enterprise Hub, which I'm going to leave to Cassandra to talk about. But we also have 3 levels of volunteers, and you'll notice the theme of MCT runs throughout all of our brand. And our member pioneer is a volunteer who comes in on a weekly basis, a daily basis, gives direct enhanced support to individuals who need it. Community champions, where they come in and they're specialists within the local area or within a field. And to give you an example, our community champion in Cheshire is David Briggs, who's the former Lord Lieutenant, and our community champion for exporting is Leslie Batchelor, CBE, who's the former Director General for the Institute of Export. So these are the calibre of levels of volunteers that we introduce our young people to give them the best kickstart in their career or in their entrepreneurial journey. And we also have talent coordinators. These are our mentors and facilitators who come into the hub and engage directly with our young people. Next slide, please. So as our impact within our organisation, we are 3 in October, and we're working with just under 700 young people since our formation. And I'm very proud to say that 50% of those young people have secured their positive destination. 9% have gone into training and education, and 41% have gone direct into employment. That's seeing us engage with over 20 community volunteers and supporters who's made it possible, and to add a social economic value of over £5 million in such a short time frame. I'm beyond proud of the efforts of my small but dedicated team here at MCT. And once again, MCT for us is making communities thrive by aligning, collaborating and working with like-minded individuals and organisations who do strongly believe that the next generation of employment needs to be invested in sooner rather than later. And on to the next slide, please. So this is I'll talk briefly about the Youth Employment Hub as a quick overview. We do have hub access, which is open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Any young person can come in. And what we have here is a food bank on site, which is free accessible, free Wi-Fi, printing, telephone, a one-to-one pod. We have CPT sessions that are available to them, including the workshops that we have. We're fortunate to have a work coach from DWP, so their work coach meetings can happen in the hub as opposed to the job centre. And we also have representatives from Wirral Borough Council to support them with their local needs, as well as Magenta Living, who's one of the largest local private tenants within the area. So we kind of want the hub to become a one-stop shop, not just for employability, but for staying true to our logo by setting those foundations and giving them their wraparound support that they need before they venture off into the scary world of work. The next slide, please. I'd be pleased to know this is the final slide from me, then you'll lose my dulcet tones and I'll introduce you to a colleague. So there's some of the things that we offer to extend the reach and expand their opportunities, because there's one thing we're really, really passionate about, and that's empowering the disempowered to re-empower themselves. And that's something that we're kind of passionate here. And we do that through career expos, which are sector specific open days in the hub, where we bring in those ethical employers to come and share their opportunities and sector awareness with the young people who attend. We don't have jobs fairs, we've got career catalysts, which are for young people, focused for young people. And then there's also what's really reassuring. Our last one saw about 40 young people attend, and we had about a 30% success rate from that career catalyst. We've got career checkout, which is some of the activities we do in the hub. Skills alignment, CV builder, facilitated job search, interview preparation, the employability support that you'd expect from an employment hub. But we go in that little bit further by, if a young person is do I, don't I, with regards to a career pathway, we'll find them a placement so they make an informed career choice rather than putting themselves into a situation and trying to make it work. And then we also have our own in-house program called Empower to Success, which is an intervention for those who find themselves furthest away from the labour market. And what you'll find is once we engage with them at that level, their positivity increases, their self-confidence, their self-esteem, and then they approach the labour market in such a more positive mindset than when they actually attended the hub. So if you've got any burning questions with regards to MCT and the Employment Hub, please wait till the end, as we've been instructed by Jack. And I'm going to hand you over now to my colleague Cassandra, who, if just do the next slide, please. Cassandra actually was a young entrepreneur here at MCT, joined as a young member, became a young entrepreneur, shadowed on a placement my former development officer, and then applied for the position when she moved on and secured that role. So Cassandra is not just an entrepreneur, it's a true inspiration to me, to the members she engages with, and to the wider communities who are so fortunate to get to meet her. So I'm going to pipe down and hand you over to the inspirational Cassandra Stewart.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here as well. So thank you to ERSA for trusting me to come on camera. You clearly don't know me that well. So my role as Development Officer really for the Youth Enterprise Hub is one that not only inspires me on a daily basis, but it's also a topic that's really close to my heart. Being a young entrepreneur myself and running through some of the programmes that I'm about to share with you, I believe it's vital that entrepreneurship's made a viable, accessible career pathway to young people. Not only across the nation, but across the globe. I mean, we're building the leaders of tomorrow. This is our future. So if we could just go to the next slide for me, please. So our Youth Enterprise Hub really is a collection of development opportunities, and they're there to empower young people who are business minded to explore pathways into running a business. It's an enriching environment with an encouragement towards personal development, confidence boosting and upskilling, and our hub creates a catalyst for enterprise that allows business-minded young people to make informed decisions and progressions within entrepreneurship and commerce. Could we just go to the next slide for me, please? So our enterprise programmes range from 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on the ability and level of business knowledge, providing opportunities for all young people to explore enterprise as a viable career pathway, no matter their circumstances. So firstly, if we look at Boss Your Business, this is a 6 to 8 week programme, and it's delivered in partnership with training organisations, accredited training organisations, because we're not an accredited organisation, and that's on purpose because we feel like it'll block out a lot of young people who don't have the credentials to do some of our programmes. So this is really for those who are struggling whether they actually want to consider running a business. So they might have an idea, and we'll look at the initial steps for a business startup. So that'll be financial considerations, it'll be the initial marketing and the initial setup. And usually by the end of that, young people figure out whether or not they do want to run a business. And they receive a level 2 accreditation on the end of it, which is an NCFE in creating a business startup. So we could just jump to the next slide for me, please. And next, if we look at Pathway to Entrepreneurship, now this is our newest initiative, and it provides under 16s with the opportunity to gain the enterprise skills needed to advance as an entrepreneur, exploring the world of commerce and business pitching. So it inspires healthy competition, teamwork and resilience whilst exploring topics such as marketing, legislation and business structures. So if we look at the timeline, the first stage really is idea generation. So working in groups, these young people will come up with an idea for a product or a service, and then they'll begin building a marketing plan, which will then pitch to a panel of investors to raise the required capital, take their product to a testing market, which will often be throughout the school with their teachers, their peers, family and friends, and then at the end there's an awards event to figure out who did the best. So if we can go to the next slide for me, please. Finally, we'll look at our Young Entrepreneurs Academy. Now, this programme empowers young people with entrepreneurial aspirations to bring their ideas to life. Through the Academy, they'll be part of a bespoke training programme with sessions and tailored mentorship with experienced and successful business owners. Following a 2-phase delivery model, this 6-month programme begins with direct enhanced support, covering the components of business startup, ensuring that members have an in-depth understanding of their business plan and concept, marketing and operations before potentially registering them with Companies House. And then following that, there's a live business pitch to investors again. And now with this business pitch, there's a lot more to gain from it because these are real business ideas, and they could gain real capital from this that will support their business. And then we'll look at the topics of business growth. So they'll explore topics in depth like developing a business plan, brand development, business structures and legislation, and finance for entrepreneurs, products and services, enterprise skills and leadership. We'll even take them to networking events where they'll begin to build up their own network of professionals and sector operatives that will help mentor them through their journey of business growth. Okay, so we could jump onto the next slide for me, please. So this, what you'll see here, is our most recent cohort of graduates from the Young Entrepreneurs Academy. And you've got everything from music events, graphic design and photography with a focus on mental health, to bubble tea, Italian catering and animal-based therapy. So the initiative engages young people to embark on a potent journey of self-discovery so that they can share their skills with the world and believe in themselves enough to manage their own creative talent and forge their own career pathway. If we could jump to the next slide for me, please. So showcase here are some of the logos from the many startups that we've supported, and the success that you're seeing today is a result of powerful collaboration between like-minded organisations, successful entrepreneurs and our passionate mentors, as well as the young people who engage with the programme, because after all, we're an empowerment organisation that's crafted by young people for young people. And you know, most of our young entrepreneurs are registered with the Companies House, dependent on whether they need it or not. Some remain as sole traders. And what's nice is with each cohort, we keep a WhatsApp group with them. And even after they've graduated the academy, the WhatsApp group stays active and we invite them back for networking events and any support that they need. Because oftentimes we'll find, you know, if they've been registered with the Companies House, they will, you know, 12 months down the line be like, oh my God, I've had a letter from HMRC, I'm absolutely bricking it, what do I do? And they come back to us and we support them in that. So they stay members for life and they've got that direct support until they don't need it anymore. So we could jump to the next slide for me, please. So there was a video on this slide, but I'm not sure if it's working. I'm not sure. But I'm going to pop it in the chat box so that anyone can access it if they want to. Now, you might be wondering, how does a young person become a young entrepreneur? Do they need a business plan before they enter? Do they need qualifications? Not really, no. All they need is passion and to send us a 30-second to 2-minute long video that tells us their name, their business idea, and why they want to do it. So we could just have the next slide for me, please. And to represent the class of 2021 to 2022 young entrepreneurs and share his personal journey, I'd like to introduce to you one of MCT's alumni, Sebastian Linares, from Altura Farms. So I can stop talking now.
Yeah, brilliant, guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Truly an honor. And yeah, well, firstly, introduce myself. My name is Sebastian, and I'm a founder of a startup called Altura Farms. And before I give you the whole page of what I do, why I do it, what's my passion behind it, I think I should give a bit of background of who I am, how I came across entrepreneurship, first of all. And well, came to this country about nearly 4 years ago with my family. And yeah, came to Liverpool basically, and I was almost just jumping around opportunities. Started college thinking, you know, I'm going through the traditional route of college, university, as I had some limitations in terms of accreditation and certification in grades from back home that didn't allow me to go to university straight away. So I had to go through the whole process of, you know, go to college, and then hopefully go to university. But during my second year in college, I decided to study business. So I did an access course in business, which is a level 3 course. And I had the most brilliant lecturer, amazing educator. She really pushed me to go beyond. She pushed me to read more, to educate myself more, to think critically about matters that were happening in society or matters that happen in society. And in one unit, we decided to study about ethics in business. CSR was a unit. And if you know about CSR, it's corporate social responsibility. So how can a business be responsible in terms of socially, in their community and environmentally with the planet. And I came across this industry called vertical farming, and that's what you see there in the picture. It's something I kind of built, and that's what I call a micro farm. So what you see that can grow leafy greens and microgreens all year round without the use of pesticides, using hydroponic or aeroponic techniques. And this means basically the plants grow in water. And this is a very new technology, but it is receiving a lot of investment. For example, the Saudi Arabia Public Fund committed 1 billion euros for entrepreneurs and companies alike to invest in the industry. And as I said, I started to study about this, and I just became really passionate about it. And I said, wow, how can I actually get involved with this? It seemed crazy to me that with infrastructure using this technology, maybe in an empty warehouse, maybe in a basement, wherever, they could use this technology to grow food near cities. And that was the vision of it. That's what drove me and made me really passionate about getting involved with this. And doing my research, I was having a job back then in retail, just a normal job. It was December 2021, and there was just something in me that wasn't sitting right. I was like, I cannot do this. This is not for me. There's something more for me to do. And I was looking for another job. And I received, I was subscribed to a newsletter of jobs in the Merseyside area. And there was this opportunity. It said, MCT, if you want to open your own business, or you have the passion or an idea, we want to help you. And that's how I kind of jumped and almost randomly found out about Merseyside Community Training, or MCT. And that first day, I had actually spaces were limited. And that same day I applied. 3 hours later, I received a call and said, it's Sebastian. It's from MCT. We'd love to chat to you. We're hoping to close the cohort by the end of this week. Can you come today? And I was like, actually, yeah, I'll do it. And that was the beginning of the journey. I started that, and I was a member of what you guys saw that Kevin and Cassandra mentioned, the Young Entrepreneurs Academy. 6 months, I learned how to write a business plan, come across with a marketing strategy, HMRCs, if I wanted to be a sole trader or a limited company, what was the best way of going forward with funding, all these things that I didn't have a clue about. I just knew I had a passion, and I really learned the technical aspects of indoor farming as a whole. And that's all I knew. But my time at MCT is what allowed me to know these other things. And as months passed by, I came across with a mentor. One of the great things that I think I learned the most and I found the most valuable was that MCT, apart from their personal support, they find someone in a related industry, or someone with experience. And my mentor was someone who basically opened a recruiting company. Right now, turning over 20 million pounds a year. Incredibly successful, but incredibly just supportive as well. And he knew so many people in technical aspects, and he opened a lot of doors. And I'm actually having a meeting with him in the next 2 weeks, just a catch up and meeting some people. And this is one of the great things that happened with MCT, is that boost of confidence. And I think as young people, one of the things that Eleanor was mentioning that I felt really related was the social capital value that some of us have. I certainly, with my experience, with my network, I couldn't come across anyone. One of the people that MCT introduced me with was a restaurant owner in the Northwest. He owns 5 restaurants, high-end restaurants, the right customer persona, the right type of customer that I'm looking for. And he introduced me to his chefs. And one of his chefs, the first thing he asked me, who are you supplying? And as someone who's never traded before, I didn't know anyone, absolutely anyone. And to get an entrance with these people, you have to know people. That's how it works. Unfortunately, it's sad, it's annoying, very annoying, but that's how it works. And one of the other great things that MCT did, and I'm really thankful for, was that introduction to people, but people that mattered, people that actually could help me with things. So that journey started, and as Kevin and Cassandra mentioned, I managed to even pitch my business to a board of people that, you know, some of them were in the manufacturing, some of them were in sales, some of them were in hospitality. And that was a great experience. And it was a very protective area and environment for me to do my first pitch. Because if you've ever done a pitch before, it's scary. Like, I was shaking, and it was people that I knew before, but I was so nervous. And I actually, about 3 weeks ago, I had the chance of pitching my business to the European Institute of Technology in Food. And they introduced me to a bunch of industry professionals and some of the funding I can receive from government in terms of research and development, because there's a lot of money, as I said, been invested in, and how the UK can be self-sufficient in food production. And that second time, I was feeling a lot less nervous than a very protected area the first time I had with MCT. And that's what like, I look back to those things, I'm like, wow, it really, the impact it had, it's just incredible. And as I came to my graduation, and I met a lot more people, I really wasn't sure what was the next step. So I was like, yeah, do I just go to funding circle or a bank, and I start for a startup loan, 25,000 or whatever. And I actually, from good feedback, from education, from reading books, the answer was, I have to test this, because it's very new. You don't go to supermarket and find produce that's grown under LEDs all year round without pesticides. You don't really find it because it's very new. So I knew I had to minimize my risk. And again, Merseyside Community Training introduced me to an organization in Liverpool called Farm Urban. And Farm Urban had, they're a social enterprise as well. They're not privately minded, but they offered me a placement after a chat with MCT. Farm Urban is this organization. They use the same technology, and they have a small farm in Liverpool. And I might be able to show it to you guys, because I'm in the office right now, and the farm is just behind me. And they said, yeah, we love to give him a chance. And I started as a placement, going once a week, and over the summer extended to 2 weeks. And then they offered me a job, firstly funded by my local council through an ILM. And I was really excited, because it not only allowed me to learn more. One of the first things I noticed when I first came to Farm Urban and an organization, you know, involved in this industry, was that it's so academically intense. Everyone in the industry has a PhD, and that was scary at first. I didn't even go to university, and you can imagine sometimes the lack of confidence that can create. But how supportive and how helpful they've been through this whole time has been just blew my mind. And yes, for Farm Urban, after 6 months of that support from the council in terms of a wage, they offered me a full-time job, and I'm now hired as a farm technician official for Farm Urban, but also I do consultancy and some of the engagement side of things as well, in terms of research development that we do a lot. And this started as an introduction from MCT, And here I am today. We're working. We just received social investment from the Somerian Foundation, a financial institute in London that gives basically funding for social enterprises. Which, you know, when you don't have any shares, it's very hard to raise capital. And it's really exciting. We're doing work with a number of councils. We're doing work with different property developers. And one of the things that allowed me to do this through my time at Farm Urban was that they allow me to use technology for free to grow my own business, which for many doesn't make sense, but that's how I could help them with so many things, and they could help me with so many things. And right now, in my business, I'm supplying a couple of restaurants in Liverpool. I supply high-end culinary herbs and micro herbs to the high-end restaurants in Liverpool, and I do that from Farm Urban's place in Liverpool, in the Liverpool city centre. Technology that at the minute is free for me, including energy prices. All of it is included, as long as I give them a lot of the evidence, a lot of the data that they use for the research and development side of things, and while I try to validate this business and make the numbers match before I go to an investor and get the funding I need. But yeah, that's me. And as they all said, any questions at the end, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Just the final slide, if that's okay. So a huge thank you for everyone for your patience and interest in what we're working towards at MCT. And as you'd heard from the inspirational Sebastian about the journey he's done and we've supported with since graduating our academy and carrying on, because the membership each young person receives, the programme is 6 months, but their membership is 12. And actually, as an entrepreneur, their membership, as Cassandra said, is for life. If they need us, if they require us, we're going to be here. But going beyond what we do at MCT, we're also involved with international youth entrepreneurship initiatives, working alongside the OECD, the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, which is a unique forum of governments comprising of 37 democracies within market-based economies. And we're actually supporting and representing on the influencing youth entrepreneurship policy by helping them support writing a white paper for youth entrepreneurship. And we're actually advocating, to use the perfect example of Sebastian, that you don't need to start an academic route to start up your business. The academic route should be there when you need to take your business to the next level. And that's what we're achieving at MCT. And if anybody's local and would like to come in, our door is always open and the kettle is always on. But if you want to have a one-to-one with me and my team, our contact details will be shared at the end. And we'd love to have that conversation more personally and see if we can collaborate moving forward. Thank you for the opportunity, Jack, and thank you everybody else for listening in.
Thanks so much to the whole team at MCT and to Sebastian. That was a really, really fascinating story. So I know there's been a couple of questions in the chat. I know, Eleanor, you had a question for MCT, so I don't know if you want to kick us off. And then otherwise, if people put their hands up, then I can call you out.
Thanks so much. Yeah, just a quick one, because I don't want to hog too much airtime. MCT, that was incredible. Thank you so much. And Sebastian, fantastic speaker. I wondered about sort of unique challenges or labour market needs in Merseyside, and how do you as an establishment match what you're sort of supporting young people to go into with the needs in the area? Are there certain industries that you're focused on, and how easy is it for you to find that information, that data about what jobs are really out there in your area?
If MCT want to come in on that.
That's what happens when two people use a mouse. One unmutes and the other one mutes. So we work in collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, and one of our partners that we collaborate with is the Department for Work and Pensions and the local job centres who feed in the market needs and the requirements. But we also have a very strong working relationship with the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority and they have fantastic data and resource. They've just won an award for the Be More app, which kind of is really good about apprenticeships and opportunities. We attend regular meetings, we have workshops, we've actually hosted events here. And also, as the Youth Employment Hub collaboration within LCR, Liverpool City Region, we have bi-monthly meetings with all of the youth hubs. So we kind of keep our finger on the pulse, support each other, because as I say, it's not a competition, it's a collaboration. So working alongside the other 10 youth employment hubs, DWP, Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, Wirral Ways to Work, and all other initiatives, we tend to like to have a presence there and support, and not just find out what opportunities are available for young people, but also advocate for young people in those seminars when they don't tend to have a voice.
Thanks so much. And I think Jan had a question in the chat as well after Eleanor. I don't know if you want to come in now.
What kind of support is provided during the test trading period? What criteria are used for awarding? So the test period, it is very much trial and error, given the setup and the level of the business that they go. Each young entrepreneur is assigned a mentor, and it's not just which mentors have we got available. There's quite a process that goes into this. And what happens is all the young entrepreneurs and the mentors come together for a mentors coffee. So they don't just get to meet their mentor, they get to meet all mentors. And then working in collaboration with those and having constant reviews with Cassandra and the mentor, we kind of go out there to the market with them, not letting them fly solo at such an early stage, I think is what I'm saying. So we'll go there, we'll help facilitate their success. We'll do it with them, we won't do it for them. And what's most rewarding from that approach is we get to see ordinary young people go on and achieve extraordinary things. So it is hand-holding, it is support, it is patience, sometimes it is a little kick up the backside, but what more importantly is we kind of shadow them, support them, and then we let them fly solo, and then we check in with them and we make sure that it's going right. We've also got fantastic links with the Fashion Hub, the quarters, the business development, the education quarter in Liverpool City Region. We're very well connected and very fortunate to have these connections on our doorstep. But what we are good at is utilising these connections for the growth and development of each young person we engage.
Fantastic. I think we've seen some real repeated themes of the importance of mentorship and providing social capital to people who might not necessarily have it, and it's been great to see that in both the research and in the support that MCT do, and also in what Sebastian said he enjoyed. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I can't see any hands up in the chat. Also, if you're also providing entrepreneurship or self-employment support for young people, feel free to jump in and share your experiences or a little bit about your provision. We'd love to hear that as well. Well, it doesn't look like we have any volunteers, so that might be it on the question front for today. Just before we finish, I've got a couple of to put in. We've got a report coming out on the reasons for neatness that was based on a sort of survey of our members, and that's in partnership with the Educational Development Trust. If you look on our Eventbrite or Henry, we've published the Eventbrite link for the report release on that, which will be on the 6th of July. So I think this is a good group to advertise that to, so please sign up for that and come hear about our upcoming research. Also, a general ERSA point, it's Employability Day, which is our day to celebrate the employability sector. That's happening on the 30th of June. I'm sure some of you will already have plans for that. Please do let us know at policy@ersa.org.uk about what you're doing on Employability Day. We encourage people to get in contact with their local councillors or MPs or Metro mayors or whoever, and just really drive home the importance of the employability sector and get that message across to the important thinkers. I think that's it, other than an absolute massive thank you to everyone who's participated in this today, both people from MCT and Eleanor from Youth Futures. I thought it was a really informative session, and thank you all for attending. The slides and the recording will all be published following the meeting, so look out for them, and also contact details of the people who spoke, because I'm sure you'll want to get in contact and hear even more about the great work that they're doing. So I think that concludes our session for today. Thanks a lot, everyone. I've really enjoyed it. Have a good rest of your day and rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thanks, chat. Great to see you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. I just noticed a